month's episode of... Okay, I'm just waiting for my syncs to happen here. So welcome to this month's episode of First Fridays. It's May, almost halfway through the year, if you can believe it. But yeah, really thankful to God for His grace and mercy for getting us this far. Gosh, I got a strand of hair that just looks lost here, so I'm just trying to fix that up. It's crazy how we get so self-conscious when we are watching ourselves on camera. So I'm just going to give a minute for all those who are able to join. So glad that those of you who are here can be here. So welcome to May's First Fridays. Born Simba, thank you for joining. I see you. Welcome. Thank you for joining. We're live on YouTube and Instagram and hopefully Facebook, but we'll figure that out later if it's not live. Most people tend to watch it after the fact anyway. All right. So while I'm waiting for friends to join, I just wanted to show off my latest project. Isn't she pretty? I started this project on Monday. I started with a ball of yarn, a skein of yarn this big. This is the Karen's Big Cakes. They say it is 600 yards of yarn. I don't know what that is. That's 551 meters of yarn. So I started it on Monday, and I was just kind of working during meetings when I am able to be off camera, or just in between when I'm taking a little bit of a break. And this is how much yarn I have left. Not done, but it did work up pretty fast. If you can see, and I'll share more about this project on my Made by Jess channel, where I share all my crafts and handiwork type of work over there. But I'm actually going to be working on it during this chat today, and like I said earlier, I started it because I was getting irritated by being invited to a lot of meetings which I felt were like unnecessary meetings. And then, you're sitting there. You can see some people are drawing, you can see some people are actually reading something else on another screen. So people are not really engaged. And I find that when my hands are busy, I can focus better. So I used to doodle, and then one day I just thought, what about if I crochet instead of doodling? And that's how I started it. And so I wanted to kind of make better or more efficient use of my time. And speaking of time, that's a great segue into today's topic. So today we're talking about the gift of time. Time is one of those things we always say we don't have, enough of. We're busy, we're stretched, we're always running from one thing to the next. But really, what if the greatest gift you were ever given was the gift of time? How often do we pause and truly value the time that we've been given? Our default settings may sometimes cause us to see time as a burden or a limitation, or we don't have enough of it to do the things we want to do in life. But I believe time can also be a sacred opportunity to grow, to love, to heal, or even just to live with intention. Time reveals growth. We heal and we evolve with it. So as we grow, just like we do in the physical, you're born a baby, you can't fend for yourself, you can't even move. Then soon you start crawling, you're moving about. Before you know it, you're walking, you're running, you're driving, you're riding a bike, you're on your own. So with time, as time evolves, as time passes, we also we grow, right? So that's kind of what I want to talk about today, as long as I don't get distracted by my yarn here. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, the beauty of time. So as we know, every season has a purpose, right? Just like the natural seasons we have, summer, winter, spring, and fall, and all of them have a purpose, and they do their part in the the ecological and environmental system. We need the sun to come out and the grass to grow so that the animals can feed, and whatever happens to the soil happens to the soil. And then before we know it, it's harvest time. We harvest it all out, and then we have winter where the ground just goes to rest for a bit and then works hard again in the spring. So every season has a purpose, and there's beauty in the waiting, in the transitions, and in those quiet moments of the seasons of life. And what's unfortunate is sometimes simple moments are overlooked, and those simple moments usually carry deep meanings in our lives. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today was that time is a healer. So if you speak to anyone who has gone through extreme loss or very difficult situations or hardships, they will tell you that yes, in the moment it was painful and it was difficult. But over time, when they recall that moment, the sharp edges of the pain have softened. I can recall certain things about the death of my parents. And I know that there are certain events that occurred on the day that each of them passed that I couldn't recall without feeling the sting in my eyes, without feeling that pain like it just happened. But over time, it doesn't take away the pain or the core memories that I have. It just sort of dulls the pain a bit. So the edges, the sharpness of that pain are softened. And that's what time does. It heals so that you don't feel that sharp edge. It's softened. And we know that healing, even in the physical, if you have an open wound, a cut or whatever, healing unfolds gradually over time. So time is a healer. The next thing is, we know that time is a teacher. So every season, every delay you go through, every detour that you have to go through or take has a lesson. It carries a lesson. And some of life's greatest lessons, they are not found in textbooks or in sermons. In fact, they are found in the in-between, in those in-between situations of waiting and waiting for time to pass and run its course. Because we understand that time teaches us patience. It teaches us to have different perspective and resilience, right? Because if you're waiting for something, or if you're praying and hoping for something, and God's answer has been wait, time teaches you to be patient. It teaches you to have different perspectives, so you're not frustrated because you want an answer right away. But it also teaches you to have resilience so that you remain focused on that thing that you're waiting for. Time teaches us that the rush for answers can rob us of wisdom. The sooner you want or need to have an answer, you miss out on the lessons that you're supposed to be learning while you're waiting. So time really robs us of that. Being impatient robs us of that. opportunity to be able to gain the wisdom that we learn from waiting for something. As you go through waiting seasons, you begin to see things differently, especially if you're waiting in the right way, not just procrastinating, but actually waiting. And that is some of the things that the wisdom that comes in those periods of waiting. Brother Benji, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining the live. Okay, the third point is that time is not promised. And this is really, really something that's so close to home for me. Life is so fragile. We cannot take even one day for granted. So I'm always advising people, say what needs to be said. Do what needs to be done. Go where needs to be gone. Forgive, start again, surrender, laugh and love. Because you don't know when your day comes. We don't know what tomorrow holds, right? So we should live, I like to say, live with urgency, but not with anxiety. And when I say that, I mean live with boldness, live with intention. Don't just like, someday I'm going to do this. Just live with the intention of, I need to do this. I need to go here. I need to say this to somebody. If you love someone, tell them. Don't wait for another day or another opportunity. Tell them. If you have always dreamt of going somewhere, work to go there. Go there. I always tell my sisters, I don't want to be at 60 sitting in a rocking chair. Sorry, I shouldn't say 60 anymore because I'm not far from 60. It used to be far away when I was 20. But, I don't want to be in my senior years sitting in a rocking chair because I, probably can't fly because I'm on an oxygen tank or something, God forbid. But I don't want to be regretting the things I could have done when I had the time. So life is fragile. We could lose our time, our days, anytime. But while we have the strength, the energy, and the wherewithal, we should do what we need to do. And that leads me to the next point, which is the responsibility that we have with time. Unlike money, we cannot earn more time. We can earn more money, but we can never earn more time. Once it's gone, it's gone. So obviously we know then that we need to spend our time wisely. Now, we don't get to choose how much time we get on this earth, but we certainly, to a great extent, get to choose what we do with it. And I know life circumstances, family situations have a great impact on that, but also it is our own attitude to the situation that we find ourselves in that can determine what we do with the time that we have. Being intentional, living intentionally, and not being distracted is a great way to use your time wisely. So don't be distracted. In these days of social media, you can easily waste an evening scrolling on TikTok. And I'm not saying that's bad. No judgment here. I'm just saying, if that's part of your purpose to be on TikTok, do it and do it well. But if you have other things that you ought to be doing with that time, my brother, my sister, my friend, my loved one, then use your time wisely. This is part of the reason why I started crocheting. If I'm not crocheting, I'm usually writing. And I write a lot. A lot of the stuff I write, I never publish because I just feel, they're just me expressing or just, putting some thoughts of mine to paper. And I'm not saying that I have it right, but I just have this thing about me, and my kids will vouch for me. I'm always like, I need to be doing something with my time. I hardly watch TV. I always feel like I need to be productive with the time I have. And I remember that during the pandemic, I gave them all a challenge, all my children. I gave them a challenge and I said, use this time to learn something that you wouldn't ordinarily learn. My daughter took up gardening. I think my oldest son started to teach himself the guitar, and my middle son, I think that's when he started his podcast. Can't remember, but I was like, tap into your creativity, because it really irks me the way they can sit and watch basketball. And I'm going, you're watching millionaires and adding to their millions, but you're doing nothing for your own life. So that's how I view it. And maybe I'm extreme. And you can send me a message later and tell me to correct my ways. But I always feel that we are given so much time in our lifespan, and that we have a responsibility to choose how we use that time and how we can glorify God with the gifts that He has given us, or the purpose that is planted in our lives for us to work through during our lifetimes. So really, we shouldn't live as though time is endless, like it's a renewable resource, because it's not. It comes to an end at a certain time. And how you spend your time reflects what you value. Excuse me. Ooh, that's good tea. How you spend your time reflects what you value. The Bible tells us in the book of Psalms, I think it's David who says, teach us to number our days, so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. So it means, we should be aware that we have an expiry date. And because when you're aware that something's going to come to an end, you treat it with more wisdom. We always say that, excuse me, we always treat things better when we know we're going to lose them than when we actually feel we have an endless supply of it. And that's why you find that when people are sick or anything, or have some kind of a incurable type of sickness or disease, they tend to be more careful with what they're eating, more careful with their exercise and diet. So we're always a little bit more careful and more conscientious when we know we're going to lose something. In a relationship, if someone feels like, oh, this girl's going to break up with me, they start to pull up their socks, as I say, and they start to be nice and, to go overboard and everything, because they sense a loss coming. And that's what sometimes happens, is that we only start to value something when we're about to lose it. But if we have the wisdom of knowing ahead of time that we only have so much days on earth, and we need to take good accountability of that time that we're given, and good stewardships. So my question to you is, what are you investing your time in today? And does it align with your values and your purpose? Honestly speaking, there's people who have dreams and ambitions and goals to be something in life or to do something. But the truth is, nothing comes when you don't work for it. You've got to invest for it. You've got to put the time aside for it. And a lot of things are competing for your time, because it is such a valuable resource. And you need the wisdom to know which things to give your time to. Otherwise, those things you want to accomplish in life, they may not happen unless God works a miracle. So, what are you investing your time in? If you're trying to, get a promotion at work, but every day you're busy doing other things and not advancing yourself in your knowledge and your skills for your job, how will that come about? If you're trying to get a degree or a high school diploma, but you spend your time on social media looking at what other people are wearing or saying or doing, and not focusing on your grades, how are you going to get there? Right? So we've got to invest the time. invest the time wisely. What does your calendar say about your values? And that one was a personal sting for me because I'm an overworker. I'm spending too much time working. My calendar is always full. So full of work meetings, but not enough play dates, quote unquote, with my kids. I say play dates in quotes because they're grown, but not enough time with them. Not enough movie nights. Not enough just sitting around and chat type of nights. And so those are some of the things I'm purposing in my heart to be intentional about. How am I spending my time? Because I want to invest in my children. And then there's opportunity in every moment. If we started to consider moments in time as a door, an open door. So in this door, you could go out and show love to someone. You could use this door to go and learn something, to take action about something, or even to rest. Resting is not wasting time. There's a season for rest. And so you need to know when that season comes and use it for resting. You cannot plant in harvest time. And you certainly cannot harvest if you didn't plant. I talked earlier about summer, spring, fall, and winter. Nobody plows fields in the winter when there's snow on the ground. So you got to know when the season has come. And how do you know that? With the wisdom that comes from the waiting and the time, and also from the praying. Ask yourself, today, right now, what is this moment calling me to do or to become? It is my prayer that every time you join these lives, even though the conversations may seem very basic and very, foundational, my prayer is that it'll just trigger a thinking or a thought in you. It's just a seed. That maybe there's something in your life that you need to adjust. Maybe there's something in your life that you need to rearrange. Maybe you've been given to focus onto the wrong things, and it's maybe time, we're still in the first half of the year, that you can just adjust some things to make sure that when you stand before your Maker, He can say, well done, my good and faithful servant, because, you worked out your purpose. You worked out the things that you were supposed to do while you're on earth. And mind you, a lot of us, in fact, if not all of us, our purpose is to build the kingdom. And so that little bit, as you may consider it, that little bit that God had put in your life for you to be doing, that little bit will impact a generation, could impact other people. And so if you're not doing it, you are not progressing the kingdom of God where that is your purpose. So we've got to be very, very aware. First of all, what is my purpose, and am I working it, or am I just sitting back, relaxing and thinking, well, there's always tomorrow? Because the truth is, we don't know if tomorrow will come. It's not promised, but we can hope for it for sure. So what is this moment calling you to be? Okay, so I have some things I was just noting down here so that I wouldn't forget. And the first one is be present in the present. Oh God, like I said, this is so directed at me. Time is often stolen by distractions, by worry, by regrets. Hey, you can spend time worrying about things that you miss what's happening in the present. I was on holiday a few weeks ago and I realized that I was worried so much sometimes about taking that perfect picture of the sunset over the ocean, that in that moment I just missed enjoying it. Just missed enjoying watching the sun slowly go down. So those are just a very basic example of how not being present in the present can rob you of something, right? How can we be more present in our own lives today? Considering the fact that our time is under so much competition, how can we be more present? One of the things I always notice, and I always notice after the fact, is how quickly the leaves come up on the trees, and I blink and the trees are fully green. I blink again and they're turning brown. Because the Mother Nature's doing her thing and the seasons are moving the way they're supposed to move. But we could miss that if we're not in the present, And the other thing I wanted to say is that sometimes the most generous thing you can offer other people, it's not your time, it's not your money, it's not your talents, it's your time. Because time, like I said earlier, is not something we can earn back. Okay? Like money, how you can go and work and earn more money and get a promotion and earn more money. Can never earn more time. So time is actually really a part of your life. It's a component of who you are, your life. So when you give someone your time, you're actually giving them a piece of your life. And that's sacred. That is sacred. And when I realized that, I was like, okay, when someone actually says, I'm going to visit you, or I'm going to call you, I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to text you, they're giving me a part of their life. And that's sacred. And that's something I should treasure and value and not waste. Because we have a tendency to waste other people's time. And the pace of life too can rob us of the presence of the present time, but we can redefine what really is a successful success. Really, what is success? We can redefine that, because we've defined successful people as always being busy, always being in a rush, always going somewhere. So it's really not always about what you get done, but it's also about what you invest in others, especially when we're talking kingdom. When we're talking kingdom, how you love others, how you serve others, that's a great use of your time. But when you talk about, oh, no, not today, there's this whole move of, boundaries and all that stuff. And honestly, I believe in boundaries. I believe we should set them. We should say no to the right things. Absolutely. So please do not get me wrong. But I also believe that we should not overextend that, so that we're never helping other people and we're always saying no to other people. Sometimes loving others comes with a little bit of a price. And as long as it's part of our purpose, I believe that we should do what we need to do to show God's love to others. So yeah. Let's not just define success by how busy we are or how much we get done, but also about how we invest our time in others. So let's learn to do that, to manage our time, to set some boundaries that I talked about, but to also rest and to plan with purpose. So to say no to the wrong things and say yes to the right things. So boundaries, like I was saying, it's not always saying no to everything. Saying no to the wrong things and saying yes to the right things. So we're almost at time, and I wanted to leave you with this one thought. You've been given the gift of time today. What will you do with that? What will you do that your future self will thank you for it? Time is fleeting as well as it is renewing. Like I said, time is a healer. It heals us. It makes us see things in a different perspective. So things that hurt us in the moment, after a while, they don't hurt as much because the sharpness of that pain has softened. So it's both fleeting because it's passing really fast, but it's also renewing us. So we've got to use our time wisely. We've got to use it joyfully and fearlessly, right? Fearlessly. So live life intentionally. Like I said, go where you need to go.
8:00 p.m.
Do what you need to do and say what you need to say. Because every breath that's inside of you is proof that you still have purpose to live out. So live boldly. I love you. Take care. Until next time. God bless.